Hello guys, welcome to grooming tutorial in Maya using XGen, and I'm gonna actually create a long hair for my character here. So the first thing I'm gonna go for is grab the faces on the skull that are supposed to be where the hair will grow out from. So these guys. Now you want to select more than lines. Okay. So these guys, I guess, are the ones that I want to go for. Okay, and then I'm gonna go for the workspace, change that to XGen Interactive Groom. Let me reset my workspace. Okay. Alright, and then I'm gonna move on to actually create some hair on it by going to select and then interactive groom splines. Okay, what this does will give me a window to create my hair. Now some of the initial settings will be like the name of the hair, so of course just name it hair, right? The generator C doesn't really matter. The density will be how dense it is, which is also something we can change. Okay, and the spline count will be that much. The length will be the length of the hair, and you can probably make it like the length you want it to be. In this case, I'm gonna make my length 25 or so. The width scale, oh, and also you want to make this guy slightly longer than the ones you want it to be. Okay, the width scale should be actually 0.25 or so. Sorry, 0.025. That's gonna be the higher length I use sometimes to render, or sometimes it's 15 depending on the size of your character. And CV count will be higher if you want to have your hair longer. Alright, so basically you can maybe change that to something around 20, which is a good number, or 25 depending on how smooth you want it to be. A lot of values here can be changed, like the width, CV count, and density. The length can be changed too, but it's just a little bit harder to do that. But anyway, let me just go create. What that's gonna do is create a bunch of hair for me, and they're really thin and they're noisy. Now the reason they're noisy is because we don't have anti-aliasing here. Just turn that on so that you can see the hair better. Okay. Alright, now another thing I'm noticing is that a lot of places here that maybe is not where the hair should be, so you can eliminate some of the hair from the from the skull. You can do that by go to the hair base, and you can choose that density brush. Okay, and then you can go to the tool settings and then tell it to decrease. And then you can draw on those areas that you don't really want to have here to just decrease those areas. Okay, I think that's good enough. Maybe not that much there either. Okay, alright, so that's one of the steps. Now another thing I see from the hair is that the hair is probably good, but they're equally long, right? And they're also not having any characteristic. They're just parallel and just read it out. So some of the things you can do before you start grooming them is like you can actually give them some characteristic already, especially for long hair, right? That's gonna make things looks better to start with. So what I'm gonna do here will be adding some modifiers. Oh, before I do that, let me also change my density to something higher. Okay, I'm gonna try maybe 3, so that I can have a lot of hair to work with. Okay, go to the hair and add modifiers. I'm gonna add my first modifier, which is a clump. What this guy does is gonna clump those hairs together to make them more fall into smaller chunks. And underneath the clump here, you can do some changes. For now, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lower the clump a little bit so they're not all falling together, right? So now it does have some more interesting changes already. You can also have some variations, which is I think they're actually pretty random. I don't know why it's not doing that, but it should be pretty random already. But I don't really worry about that too much yet. Another thing I want to do is, of course, get rid of those equal lengths. So that's going to be another modifier called cut. Okay, this cut modifier will start cutting those lines, but if you cut them, if you change this amount, it's going to cut everything equally. So it doesn't really solve my problem. And instead of cutting it this way, I'm going to actually pass in a texture. And that means that your geometry have to have perfect texture, UVs, to make this work. I'm going to use a noise here from Maya's procedural textures. I'm going to use some repeations. Set that to 10, so that it's being repeated a lot. So you can already see that the edge are now not even anymore. And I want to even cut it more, but you know that my hair is really long, but this noise value will be only just changing from 0 to 1. So I'm basically only cutting 1 centimeters maximum here. So how do I change that? Well, if you go to the noise here, the actual value being used is this guy's alpha, and you can actually offset that alpha by going to the color balance here and just offset the alpha again here, and you can see that I'm cutting more. And let me just actually type in something like 6. Now you can see I'm really can randomly cut on the edges. Now let's just give me better kind of like preview of how the hair looks like, right? That feels more natural in this case. All right, just to do something first to enhance, some of the smaller detail first, so that when I'm grooming it, I'm not gonna see a lot of really weird bad results already. Alright, now one more thing you can also do is a noise here, which is gonna be this guy, just to give it a little bit noise. And here the noise can be also changed, like you can change the frequency to something a little lower, and just maybe make the the magnitude bigger, so that the hair feels more natural. And you can also tell it to affect the bottom a little bit more too, so that it's not gonna be parallel here either. It's just gonna be noising everywhere. You can get a closer look and see how it looks like. Alright, so that's some of the basic setups to start with that can give us better feedback already, because the hair are supposed to be this way when they're straight up like this. Now another thing I want to do is actually get better visualizations, because here if you look at the hair, they're too flat. Okay, we go for a render here and actually take a render. You'll see that the hair is actually not that flat. It has shadings, it has highlights and everything. So it would be nicer that we can actually see some of the things when we are grooming them. So I'm gonna actually set up some lighting. Now I do have lighting already, but if you press 7 here to see the lighting, they're all black. The reason for that is because I'm using Arnold rectangular lights, right? Let me grab those lights and then Control G to group them together and just go add those lights. I'm gonna use some Maya default light so X can understand it. That's gonna be underneath create lights and directional light. Okay, so that's one directional light. Let me make it bigger and make it rotate this way. I can see it's already doing something for the hair. Another thing I want to see is, of course, shadow. The shadow can be done by going to the light shape here in the attribute editor. You can go for shadows and use this depth map shadow. Okay, and you can also turn on the shadows in the viewport. So now you can see some shadow, and now their resolution are too low, so you can actually crank up that value to 4K so that you can get some decent shading or shadowing already. And of course you can also go ahead and filter the shadow a little bit so that you're getting smoother shadow results, and that should be good enough for us to preview. Okay. Alright, now let me grab this light and Control D to duplicate it. I'm going to drag this duplicated light to the back, for the rim lights that I can view, and then I'm going to make them also follow my camera, so no matter where I look, I will see this lighting like this. So what I'm going to do here is grab those two lights, Control G to group group them together and grab my perspective camera and control select that group, do constraint parent to parent constraint them. So now they're always following my camera. They're actually not doing that now. Oh, I didn't do that, I guess. Grab my camera here again. And here, constraint parents. Now they're following me already. So let me actually go ahead and make them facing this way. And let me do that again. Constraint parent. Make sure that you have maintained offset there, right? All right, now they're following me all the time, and I don't really want to see them either. So I'm gonna go for show and turn off the lights. Now I can have a better feedback of whatever I'm doing here later on. Okay, so that's the basic setup. We just grow out the hair, and in the editor we did some modifiers to make it look more natural, and then we can now move on to actually shape the hair and bring them down and then do some more grooming. Okay, so this is gonna be the first tutorial of this hair grooming series. I'm gonna stop this tutorial now, and I'm gonna start a new one for the grooming part. Okay, see you next time.